Hey there. This is a reading for all the Leos out there. Going to be sticking with just the tarot and the I Ching today. And as far as your tarot goes, I'm using the Aleister Crowley Thoth deck. It's been kind of calling back to me the last 2 days. I have attempted to do your reading already yesterday, but there was a lot of energy coming through yesterday and I kind of needed to discharge, so took a little nature break and recharged a bit and grounded some of that really difficult energy that was coming up yesterday, which is not surprising. There's a lot of difficult things happening in the world right now, so that's out there in the astral for one to pick up on is not at all surprising. Anyhow, I have already cast your I Ching hexagram today, and you've actually got hexagram number 55, which is Feng, or opulence. I'm going to read from Benabel Wen's I Ching, the Oracle book. I'm just going to read the general oracle for this hexagram, and then I'm also going to read the two specific lines that you have here, because these are your changing lines. I do invite you to go ahead and do some reading line by line for this particular hexagram, and also to look at your transformed hexagram. So because these are the two changing lines, these will actually turn into a hexagram with a yang line here instead of a yin line, and a yin line here instead of a yang line. And I'll look into which hexagram that is for you really quickly. Don't know off the top of my head. So 2 yang over yin would be wind. Okay, so wind, thunder over wind. We have hexagram number 32 is your transformed hexagram if you want to look into things a little bit more deeply. But yeah, so this hexagram is composed of the trigrams fire and thunder. So Chinese element of wood over the Chinese element of fire. And I'm going to start reading real quick for you. So we have the oracle saying, honors are bestowed. There is progressive movement, and there is clarity in the mind. You are in a position of great influence. You rise like the sun at the highest point in the sky. Be mindful when abundance becomes opulence. When abundance becomes opulence, the king will fall. Every age of enlightenment comes to a decline. A period of tremendous power is upon you, but bear in mind that this too shall pass. Embrace the tides of change, come what may. I kind of want to point out one of the particular lines that's standing out to me right now, which is when abundance becomes opulence, the king will fall. And I'm not looking at that necessarily from a very literal perspective for your circumstances. What I'm thinking about is the fact that the sun, your ruler, Leo, is currently transiting through the sign of Libra. You know, this is the sign that starts at the cardinal point that marks the autumn equinox, or the western equinox. Spring for the southern hemisphere and fall for the northern hemisphere. And this is said to be like the fall of the sun, because instead of the sun being very individualized, very embodied, and able to express its power from a very centralized focal point, which is what the sun likes to do, the energy is more dispersed. It's more decentralized, not necessarily in the sense of... I feel like decentralized is probably more suitable for Aquarius. So it's more social. Like the power is conferred to groups of people, to interpersonal dynamics, rather than any one individual being above another. And so any sort of circumstances that involve communities of people, or involve, meeting of like sovereign individuals, that there's no authority dynamic in place. It's everybody has a role to play, and they're all coming together to pool their resources. And the message with this particular hexagram, when abundance becomes opulence, the king will fall. That's like hoarding your resources, hoarding your time, on like a selfish level, like to try to retain that sense of very centralized individual power and ego, and not offering your services or your time or literal resources to the people around you that might be in need. So this hexagram is calling a warning to mind, to not do that, to not this is not be in a position of power that sort of looks down at everyone or everything else, but rather is on the ground with the people and is kind of helping to confer your individual resources and power in the way that's appropriate for your approach. Hopefully that makes sense. I'll read a little bit more from this oracle here. Make sure this is the right hexagram. Yeah. I have a couple others on this page. Thunder and lightning, fullness for all. The sage renders judgments and verdicts, handing down punishments that fit the crimes. You are in a position of great influence, and you use your authority to bring justice. The king attains abundance and is free of worries, prosperity and fortune at the noon hour. You will reach great heights of success, like the sun at the highest point in the sky. The inciting of movement brings light, clarity, and success. However, abundance soon becomes opulence. When abundance becomes opulence, the king will fall. Thus, abundance comes in cycles, opulence comes in cycles. Every age of enlightenment will decline, every king's reign will end. To know when you have enough is to be immune from disgrace. To know when to stop is to be preserved from perils. Only thus can you endure for long. A period of tremendous power is upon you, a time of advancement, the height of social and civil progress. However, keep in mind that this too shall pass. What goes up will come down. Embrace the tides of change, come what may. Enjoy the moment of power and prestige while it lasts. I feel like there's more that I would want to expand on there, but I feel like it kind of sums everything up succinctly. For the first line, we have meeting their match. For a while, no troubles. Endeavoring forth, the matter is yet to be valued. The subtext of meeting their match is that both are equally powerful rulers in their own rights. There is affinity. Moreover, the meeting is one of mutual benefit and opportunity. Translated as a while, here, I'm still learning, can indicate 10 days or 10 years. It's a general indication for a period of time. Sheng is translated as valued, meaning the final accounting of Lux has yet to be assessed. There is still some uncertainty for the long-term future. Xun is also a reference to the Shang dynasty god associated with the passage of time, corresponding with the 10-day week, the 10 heavenly stems of lunisolar astrology, and the trigram of fire, which is this one down at the bottom. Thus, the first line can be interpreted as an omen or call from a fire god or the personification of time. To endure long-term success, elevate the match to be more than just a fair-weather friendship. Demonstrate loyalty, and loyalty will be reciprocated. The matter you are consulting the oracle for meets with tentative approval from the oracle. As I'm saying this, I'm being called to remember the fact that the last couple days my attention's been very focused on like the solar activity, with coronal mass ejections and solar flares and things like that, and not necessarily from like a cataclysmic or apocalyptic viewpoint, but more in the sense that the sun is kind of invigorating the Earth electromagnetic system with more energy, and there's a lot of complicating information I don't want to get into, but with a lot of the readings that I've been doing over the last week or so, whenever I started this round, a lot of the messages have been about like integrating an influx of energy within the bodily system and like containing it and channeling it appropriately, because I think a lot of us are probably feeling very overwhelmed with the energy both within our bodies and also that's kind of being expressed by world events around us. And I feel like you as a solar ruled sign kind of inhabit a very unique, maybe role is the right word, within the collective of like being I'm hesitating to say the central point just based on the message that was kind of coming through earlier, but like the main conduit that sort of allows the energy to branch out and reach other people. Leo has kind of a penchant for being the expressive, outspoken one, the bright, shining one that walks into the room that everybody pays attention to, the one that everybody's kind of orbiting around in one way or another. So using that particular, not necessarily position, what's the word I'm looking for? Using that visibility, I guess, to your advantage to be able to impart the energy that's coming through. but expressing it in a way that isn't overbearing or overstepping, being very diplomatic, being very cognizant of the fact that you're not better than anyone else. You are just, I'm hearing you're offering like the unadulterated energy from the immediate source. Like you're in communion with the primary source of the information or the energy or something. I'm not sure how that's going to be playing out for each of you. But making sure that you are understanding that everyone else has their own role to play and it's unique from yours, and not overstepping that, and not thinking that your role is more important than theirs. Like it's interrelated, it's interdependent, and you just happen to be like the prism that the light is shining through and refracting to everyone else, and each person is kind of gathering their own particular wavelength of the energy that's coming through. I hope that makes sense. It's kind of a very maybe convoluted image. But yeah, let's move on to the second line real quick. So we have opulence veiled. The Big Dipper and Pole Star are seen at noon, casting suspicions spread like a disease, inspire trust and faith, an auspicious outcome. Yeah, so that casting suspicions spread like a disease, inspire trust and faith, I feel like is very much connected to that image of like you being the central source of this energy or this information that's sort of dispersing outward to everyone else. So making sure that you filter it appropriately so that instead of spreading fear or suspicion or, a sense of, everything is going to go terribly wrong, like, there's nothing we can do, rather changing or making sure that the energy that comes through imparts a sense of confidence and imparts hope and faith and spurs people forward rather than gives them reason to doubt themselves or hold back a little bit. And also trying to make sure that if you're interacting with that energy, that you try to filter it within yourself so that you can feel inspired and you can feel like you're full of hope and faith. Because I think that's, the core of the process. You can't inspire faith and confidence in other people if you don't embody it in yourself first. Okay. So interpersonal hostilities abound. The mistrust must be changed to trust for the matter to succeed. The forecast is that such will be achieved, thus fruition. Traditionally, the second line was interpreted to indicate a foreigner or foreign relations. In statecraft, this would be an international treaty or accord between two who are matched in wealth and resources, and who mutually harbor distrust for the other. Alternatively, the second line might be expressing an outsider who comes in and becomes the leader of the pack. Now members of that pack are expressing displeasure for the situation and do not trust an outsider to be leading them. In the story of a king told through hexagram 55, the second line offers some character development. This king is an outsider. To stay in power, the king will need to inspire trust. A heavy veil cloaks the light. Clarity, understanding, knowledge, and the right path are obscured. Mistrust and envy come to rule. You can navigate the darkness by remaining sincere and truthful, no matter how the power struggle ends. The second line is describing a solar eclipse that's occurring during the day. Thus, the sky is darkening, and even stars like the Big Dipper and Pole Star are visible at noon. It's kind of relevant imagery considering that we are just coming here after 2 eclipses when I'm recording this. So yeah, let's go ahead and get into your tarot reading and see how that kind of confirms and provides a little bit more nuance to the message that's coming through. I've already shuffled the cards. I'm trying to see if I maybe want to shuffle them a little more. I don't think I do. Okay, so first card we have the Moon. This is the card of Pisces, funny enough. Second card, we have the Two of Wands in reverse, which is the first decan of Aries. In this deck, it's called Dominion. We have the Ten of Cups, which is the last decan of Pisces. Satiety in this deck, right? Yeah. Interesting that we're getting that sort of eastern half of the zodiac. Then we have Disappointment, which is the Five of Cups. This is the middle decan of Scorpio, I believe. Oh, I'm sorry, first decan. And then we have the Ace of Discs in reverse, Cardinal Winter Solstice, Capricorn, beginning of Capricorn. We have the Five of Discs, first decan of Taurus. Interesting opposition with that Scorpio and Taurus, both being the first decans. Eight of Discs, Prudence. This is the first decan of Sagittarius, I believe. Then we have the Star card. This is Aquarius's card. I'm hearing bring up Decentralized again. We'll see if that's relevant to the story that's unfolding. Okay, then we have the Universe card, the World, all the signs together as one. Ace of Cups in reverse. And that's the cardinal summer solstice point, beginning of Cancer. Okay. At the bottom of the deck, we have the Knight of Discs. Okay. Where do we want to start first? It's usually non-linear. Okay. Okay, so I'm looking at this dynamic between this first decan of Aries, this Two of Wands in reverse, and then you have the Eight of Discs right below it. So interesting. Give me a moment to think, okay? There's a lot coming through. I'm almost wondering if there was an attempt made to initiate something, an attempt made to like start a new project or a new endeavor in some way, whatever form it's taking for you, and it was met with a lot of red tape. Like it failed before it could even finish takeoff. Like I'm getting the image of a rocket being launched and then one of the engines going out and the rocket falls back to the earth. And for whatever reason, I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, did the rocket explode when it fell back to Earth? Was there like cataclysmic? And it's sort of like, that's not, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if the consequences of the failure were catastrophic. The principle is what's at matter. What's at hand. It's like the energy was trying to build up and get somewhere and it couldn't. I'm looking over at the Moon card as I'm saying that, and I'm thinking, okay, well, what does everyone else have to say about it? Like, I'm almost wondering if there's an attempt to be, I don't know if maverick is the right word, but to kind of go off against the grain, against collective ideas or collective wishes, and it didn't work out as a result because there wasn't dialogue happening between different people. And again, like I'm being called to remember this emphasis that I was making earlier of like not thinking that you are the ultimate authority, or that you are like the sole source of the energy, so to speak. Making sure that you're lowering yourself to be among peers and not among subjects. Making sure that you're taking into account the different approaches that people offer by virtue of being who they are. Everybody's going to see things in a slightly different way, and it's going to contribute something to the larger whole. Looking down at the world right here, the whole, the conglomeration, even Aquarius kind of confirms that. These two cards are right next to each other. right now. So it's like this collective energy, this need to move as a unified force rather than as individual pieces. Because that's the only way to get this energy to take off, the only way to get this energy to move forward. And I'm thinking back to the sun being in Libra right now, and I'm thinking about what Leo and what the sun represents. It's kind of representing our authority figures within our societies, within our communities. And when it's in Libra, their authority doesn't function well. Their ability to take strong leadership roles in any situation is kind of called into question. Like the certain choices that they're making, like something goes awry, or they're indecisive about how to go about doing things, and it kind of shows a weakness in their approach. And so the power is conferred, instead of to the individual, to the collective, to the community. The community pulls together for mutual benefit, rather than relying on any one source of leadership or provisions. I'm hearing provisions. Yeah, and this Ten of Cups right here, I'm looking over at it as I'm thinking about these communities. I'm like, even if there was like trouble, like the failure that we were talking about earlier, something that may or may not have been cataclysmic or catastrophic, like it doesn't matter. It's like, what does ruminating over the failure, or ruminating over the things that didn't go right, ruminating over the losses, what does that serve? What purpose does that serve? The momentum with that is backwards. And I'm thinking about this hexagram, thunder over fire, like to me, kind of separate from the I Ching interpretation. I would think like a spark, like a lightning bolt hitting a forest and starting a fire, like some sort of situation that happens quickly that forces or compels one into action. This isn't the time for ruminating over disappointments or losses. This is the time for I was gonna say rebuilding, but then I was like, no. Like maybe that's valid for some of you, but like this is the time for connecting, for sharing, for pooling resources, for pooling intentions, pooling approaches, like this very gathering different containers together. And in that togetherness, there's a wholeness that's achieved, a completion. Every perspective is accounted for, and so the project can move forward with success. Not because of any one person or authority, but because of the togetherness that was cultivated. The community that was cultivated. Ace of Discs over here in the reverse. Thinking about Capricorn, thinking about how that's usually like the foundation, the first step, the first stone that's put into place when you're starting a new construction, whatever that means. And because it's in reverse, it's like is the ground ready for the foundation? Like there's a maybe a clearing away or a preparation that needs to take place before the foundation for a new project or a new endeavor can be laid down. There's a need to maybe plan first, like rather than instigating the actions, rather than doing the thing, starting the building, hammering the first nail, spending the first dollar. There's like a course of action that needs to be laid out first. And yeah, it's a good thing if you kind of take it upon yourself to be the person who starts that process, but understand that you need to take everyone else into consideration while you're doing that. not imposing yourself on other people. Like, I feel like that's the theme here. Communal power, not individual power. But definitely like laying out how the foundation is going to be laid before the foundation is actually laid. There's more planning that needs to be put into play here, more considerations, more this is an interesting analogy that my brain's making, but like, I don't know if you guys play Minecraft or like any sort of survival builder games, anything like that. Having the project planned out so carefully that you know the number of specific materials and items that you need to complete the project before it's even started. So like gathering the appropriate amount of wood or stones, that sort of idea, like knowing exactly what you need to do what you're trying to do. And consulting with other people, like maybe there's an electrician in the group or there's a carpenter in the group, and getting their input on things and making sure that everything's being done correctly and in a way that's going to endure, maybe in a way that kind of takes into account the failure that was that occurred in the past, maybe like learning from that and using that as fortification for the new building, whether it's a literal building or something a little bit more subtle. There's the 5 of discs down here, which in this deck is called Worry. For me, it's just like a confirmation of that need for planning, that need for ensuring that the work is laid out step by step before it's actually completed. Like this 2 of Wands right here in reverse is like, this isn't the time for doing the thing. This is the time for figuring out how you're going to do the thing. The energy didn't move forward. The energy wasn't, this failure. The rocket couldn't launch before. I'm hearing because there wasn't due process involved. There wasn't a process laid out. It was just like, I'm going to do this thing and we're going to do it and it's going to take off. There was no purpose behind it. There was no step-by-step plan of what to do after the rocket was launched. It was just like, we're just going to get this, we're just going to start this and we're just going to do it and hope that everything falls into place. It's like, no, this time isn't conducive for that sort of approach. This time calls for careful articulation, careful planning, careful... I'm hearing like making sure all the screws are tightened and in the right spots. Interesting imagery. And then with the 8 of discs, that first decan of Virgo, I feel like I said Sagittarius earlier when I brought this card up. Virgo, mutable earth. It's definitely like this need to be meticulous. This, in this deck it's called prudence, like making sure that all the details are being examined and that every part is playing the appropriate role in the larger picture, making sure everything is in the right place, making sure the right number of resources are involved, the right number of people on specific projects, just like needing to ensure that every wheel in the machine, every cog in the machine is oiled, is, doesn't have a dent in it, like it's not jittery when it's moving, everything's smooth and precise and ready to go, ready for action and ready for the consequences of the initiation of this action. Like once this ball gets rolling, it's like making sure that everything's in place to account for maybe something not quite going the way it was planned. Because even with all the planning in the world, it's not going to go exactly as planned. So making sure that there's room to adjust. There's extra wood or extra stone, so to speak, extra resources in place to account for any aberrations. With the star in reverse, Aquarius is your opposite sign, where Leo is very much like the centralized authority. Aquarius is the decentralized, is the power is with the people rather than with the king. Power of the masses. It's like making sure that the purpose is aligned with the collective goals, the project. Not enforces, enriches, maybe. It's for the better, making sure that it's for the betterment of the community rather than for any one particular person. Like that approach is outdated at this point. Like whatever these circumstances were, it's kind of like it's compelling you to move beyond that paradigm of I'm the best and I'm the CEO of this company, I'm the king, I'm the president, I'm this, that, or the other. Like this, it's kind of breaking down collectively, but like in whatever situation this is, that approach just isn't going to work. And, again, just making sure that you have the end goal in mind and charting out the whole process to getting there, the whole journey to getting there. I feel like I keep reiterating the same points here. Sometimes that's what it comes down to, is like making sure that it's repeated enough that it's understood. Looking over at this Ace of Cups in reverse, it's like the energy is sort of coming down from above, literally or figuratively. Like there's a sense of blessings or nourishment, or whatever the water element represents. Is like the celestial rain falling down on the earth. And what does water do to earth? It saturates it, and it creates fertility for plants to grow, for us to plant crops and feed ourselves. Or even kind of cleansing away the old, washing away the old. To provide an opportunity for something new to take its place. And it can be, I don't want to say cataclysmic. I'm looking over at this and I keep hearing like supernova, like something sort of like very sudden, very bright, very maybe overwhelming, but like some sort of circumstance that just kind of like flowers, it blossoms, it bursts forth. And I feel like it's a good thing. Maybe it's like the conclusion of this, like once all the people kind of come together and the purpose is kind of aligned and laid out and planned and accounted for, and everybody's moving cohesively as a unit rather than as individual parts going every which direction except for the same direction. Once everybody's on the same page and working together, there's like a chance to share this nourishment. Because I'm also seeing this as like, the image I'm getting is like somebody with a full cup, and then they're looking over and seeing somebody else and seeing that their cup is empty, and like pouring out of their cup to make sure that that person doesn't go without anything to drink. Like very much this energy of we take care of our own, like we take care of each other. Your strength is my strength. Your strength and my strength together is our strength. It's like for some reason I'm looking back at this Five of Cups card right here, and I'm thinking about the process of like distillation, of like purification even. And since it's water, I mean, I'm thinking things like drinking water, but also things like alcohol because of that distillation thing. It's like this process, this alchemical process of transforming something that was maybe supremely difficult or it was just, not ideal, transforming it into something provisional. Something that provides forward progress and forward momentum. I'm hearing a new lease on life, a new perspective of things. Difficulty is like the breeding ground for character, for strength. And it compels people to come together because strength together is so far beyond strength of the individual, like strength on your own. And maybe that's like a collective message for the Leo archetype within our societies is like, instead of idolizing these single figures in our lives or even ourselves, we're understanding the collective strength, the collective power. That the authority lies within each one of us. And by coming together and I always like to use the analogy of like braiding intentions together, of like aligning our purposes, aligning our plans and goals together, we can reach the destination, we can reach the goal much more efficiently. One person's going to see the plan in a way that maybe the other person doesn't, and is going to say, oh, if we do this, we'll be able to go there a little bit faster while also maximizing our fuel efficiency. And then somebody else is going to be like, yeah, and if we do this, then this will be even better. Like, that sort of process, like taking everybody's perspective into account, because it's going to provide something for the larger picture, and it's going to make things better in some way. So finding your place in the community, humbling yourself, being able to share, pardon the aircraft out there. Hopefully you can still hear me. But yeah, tuning into collective power. And I'm gonna use this as my sign that the reading is concluded for now. I've actually gone on a little bit longer than I intended to, but hopefully it resonates with y'all. Please let me know in the comments if it did. Let me know what stood out to you, any personal anecdotes or analogies that you can come up with that maybe make this more relevant for you or for maybe somebody else. Just say hi or whatnot. My goodness. It's been crazy like that for weeks. Okay, wishing you all the best, Leo. Thanks for tuning in. Take care.